Greetings, good people. So you finally started making serious money in your business and now you want to move it offshore and pay less tax. So let's talk about the common trap you see in the offshore company formation industry, and you've seen this question all over the forums. What's the cheapest way to form an online offshore company to reduce taxes on foreign income? Sounds like the right question, right? Wrong. The real question should be, what's the cheapest way to set up an anonymous offshore company that can send and receive money internationally? Because let's face it, without a bank account, your offshore company is just a stack of useless papers. So in this video, I'll break down how to avoid these costly mistakes and still use these cheap jurisdictions such as BVI, Nevis, or Belize. So let's get started. So the first question is, what is it really that you're trying to solve? Is it zero taxes? Is it anonymity? Is it asset protection? Let's be very, very clear. Just setting up an offshore company won't solve any of those problems. And that's the first trap that these people fall into. They think that by just setting up an offshore company, all their tax problems are solved. The truth is, nothing was solved because all of their assets and income are still tied to their own name and their home jurisdiction. If you're familiar with this channel, you know that we're all about shielding your wealth and severing the chains that tie it to you. That's the only way to truly be free and take advantage of lower taxes. Most offshore channels focus on reducing your taxes using residencies or loopholes, but that's a temporary fix. Laws can be changed overnight. Look at Dubai, Estonia, or the United Kingdom. One day the tax rate is favorable and the next day it's not. And this is not a long-term solution because the assets are still tied to you, the beneficial owner, and you're just going to have to buy time to change your jurisdiction all over again in the future. So, in an ideal scenario, what are we really looking for? Well, first off, a country with privacy laws and protective legislation where your name doesn't appear in public registries. And crucially, jurisdictions where you can eventually open a bank account to send and receive money internationally. And preferably one that isn't tied to your own name, because the last thing you want is your home country keeping tabs on how much you've quietly tucked away in an offshore account. But here's the truth. Simply forming a cheap offshore company in places like the British Virgin Islands, Nevis, Anguilla, Belize, the Seychelles, or even the Marshall Islands just won't tick any of the boxes you're aiming for. None of these jurisdictions offer easy access to banking, and the banks that do accept them are usually expensive and, quite frankly, terrible. Many now require detailed information about you, erasing any illusion of anonymity. And eventually, you will pay more in time and money when you'll have to dismantle and rebuild your structure elsewhere due to changing laws and regulation. This isn't 15 years ago, before the implementation of FATCA or the expansion of the Common Reporting Standards. And the more reputable places such as the BVI, Nevis, or Anguilla, where some banks will still open accounts for you, require far more KYC on you, the ultimate beneficial owner. If you think you can form a BVI company as a foreign resident and not get caught up in controlled foreign corporation rules or CRS information sharing agreements, think again. Then there are the jurisdictions that allow for nominee shareholders such as Belize or Seychelles, which have some semblance of anonymity. You've heard the famous sales pitch for Belize LLCs as the asset protection haven, where creditors have to post half of the requested amount or a $50,000 bond just to begin the lawsuit. But here's the thing, too many people get caught up imagining themselves as the next James Bond, building this impenetrable asset protection fortress. They focus on the flashy features and the benefits without considering the practicality. Sure, Belize will work for you if you're constantly dodging creditors in your home country, but so will other offshore jurisdictions. Odds are your home country lawyers aren't flying out to Panama or Hong Kong in order to sue you. And the major downside to nominee shareholder jurisdictions like Belize or the Seychelles is, quite frankly, their international banking is terrible. We actually had a bank account in Belize a couple of years ago, and to be honest, it was like dealing with a banana republic jurisdiction. We even lost money when the US Feds ordered Bank of America to close its correspondent account with this Belize bank. And today, opening a reputable bank account in another country with a Belize LLC or a Seychelles IBC is next to impossible. The only time we would recommend these cheap offshore jurisdictions is if your business deals with crypto or if it's an ICO, in which case you don't really care about banking, as long as you have an off-ramp for your cryptos. In this case, the BVI is probably the best choice since Seychelles recently classified cryptos as high risk. With today's strict reporting requirements, the only practical way to keep using these jurisdictions anonymously and seamlessly is the Latin American or the Russian method. a trusted confidant who acts as an agent on behalf of your business. Essentially, this confidant will be the face of your business. He's going to give his information, he's going to open bank accounts, and act as the operator. But in reality, he's just a nominee's nominee for the ultimate beneficial owner, which is you. And if you have a trusted person for this role in an uncontrolled country or an unrecognized jurisdiction or even a zero tax haven, it can be a very efficient strategy to reduce the costs and minimize the risk of disclosing your personal information. One of our clients a couple of years ago actually used an agent from the Donbass region in Ukraine prior to the 2022 war. A Ukrainian passport holder who was chosen precisely because enforcement was difficult over there. This nominee's nominee appeared on all official documents as the ultimate beneficial owner and even opened Swiss bank accounts on the client's behalf. Now, of course, today this is impractical because of the sanctions, but the principle remains the same. Use agents in regions or jurisdictions that are hard to enforce against. Look, cheap offshore companies with a functioning bank account is just a relic of the past. If you're serious about creating an anonymous structure integrated with international banking so that you can send and receive payments globally, you've got to take it a step further. That means severing the ties between you and your assets using offshore trusts or leveraging the power of unrecognized countries with creative accounting. Yes, these steps definitely come with higher costs, far beyond the 2,000 euros that you'll pay for a BVI company, but they work. And they allow you to set up a company in a reputable jurisdiction that will give you access to easier banking opportunities as well as save you time down the line. For example, a trust can own a holding company in a more reputable jurisdiction such as Hong Kong, Singapore, or the United Kingdom. Yes, forming and maintaining a company in any of the aforementioned jurisdictions is going to cost far more than some remote island that nobody has ever heard of. But what you're paying for is reputable access to banking as well as save time down the line. And if structured correctly to avoid controlled foreign corporation rules and common reporting standards, you can have a long-lasting framework that provides you anonymity, asset protection, and lets you reduce taxes to zero. Anyway, that's it for today's presentation. It was a bit of a longer one, but be sure to leave a comment on any future topics you want me to cover. I'll be seeing you in the next video, but until then, bye-bye.